syndrome doesn't quite add up there.
Young and thin.
So the metabolic syndrome doesn't quite add up.
Yeah.
Was she hypertensive and hypercholesterolemic?
Not hypertensive, not hypercholesterolemic as far as I can remember.
Right, in that case I'm going to go for a more type 1 type diabetes scenario, I think, where the beta cells aren't quite right.
Let's put that aside, but you're spot on. It is a connective tissue problem. And it's not fibromyalgia, it's not an autoimmune disease or anything like that. It's not inflammatory, it's something structural, and it's something that all of these people were born with. And so the answer is collagen. Yes, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Collagen.
So collagen being the thing which most people think that collagen is something that
fill your lips with.
Something to do with skin creams and stuff like that. So it's been hijacked by the beauty industry. But it's the structural protein that connective tissue is made of. And connective tissue is basically the scaffolding that the entire body is built on. And it holds your joints together, it gives your vertebral disc their strength, it keeps your vein walls from overstretching, prevents hernias from happening, it's in the walls of the arteries, it's in the gut, it's everywhere. And if that scaffolding is even subtly faulty, too loose, not quite strong enough, then everything built on it starts to show the strain. And that doesn't happen all at once, it happens one thing at a time, years apart, and that's why these people present in this way. So basically it's a group of inherited connective tissue disorders. You're born with it. There are 13 different recognized subtypes, and actually the most common one is hypermobile, which accounts for around 90% of the cases, and it's almost certainly the most underdiagnosed one, I should say, of all of them. And it's also the one that doesn't have a genetic, they haven't found like a distinct genetic type for it. So it's very much a clinical diagnosis. You find it by examining the patient and by listening to the story. Now, when I was at medical school, eons ago, the old textbooks put it around 1 in 5,000 people, and we thought it was incredibly rare, and you might see one person, 2 people in your life or whatever. And I think quite a lot, and I regularly see people with similar things, but just to varying degrees. So I think that was almost certainly a dramatic underestimate. The best figure, the most recent sort of figures are it's around 1 in 500 people, and some places they find that it's even more than that. So it's actually, it's not a rare disease. It's actually quite a common disease that medicine hasn't fully woken up to yet, we'll say.
Right, underdiagnosed.
Yeah, and I think that it's very, it's very prevalent. And the people know people who've got hypermobility, and it's just, people just don't really recognise it. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, you can do this with your thumb to your forearm, and I can bend my fingers back and stuff like this. But it has quite a lot of health implications. It has quite a lot of health implications. And by the way, there's a test that can be done. It's called the Baton score. It takes about 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes. And you can do it by the bedside without any equipment. It's basically a number of scores. It goes from 0 to 9. And it involves checking thumb flexibility, forward flexion at the hips with your knees straight, and if you can touch your hands flat on the floor. It's to do whether your knees extend too much, and there's one other thing it's not coming to my head right now, and a couple of other things that are not coming to my head right now. That's what it is. Now, what does it actually do to the body? I think that people are going to start recognising this. First of all, as I said before, the joints are too flexible. They can be painful, prone to injury. So people who do Pilates or yoga or whatever, they might tend to injure themselves more because they don't realise that they're actually not meant to be overstretching. They've already got joints that can overstretch, and they may go further than that, right?
To show off.
Well, no, just for themselves. They think that they're just doing it to the best of their abilities, in whether to show off or not, I don't know. But they can also suffer partial dislocations or full dislocations. The shoulder, the patella, the kneecap. The scans that are done will come back normal, so they're told there's nothing really wrong. They can have early spinal disc disease, like these patients who had a cervical disc prolapse or a lumbar disc prolapse, and they often have widespread chronic pain that doesn't respond to painkillers because the cause is a structural cause. It's not an inflammatory cause. It's not like there's some major inflammation going on. This is just purely the stretch of the ligaments and an instability, let's say, in certain joints. And if those are joints that you're walking on a lot or using a lot, then you're going to be more prone to pain. We spoke about the veins. They can have varicose veins. They can also get pains inside their pelvis because you can get what's called pelvic congestion syndrome. So you've actually got a kind of varicose veins, so veins that are open and dilated and weak, and they basically they engorge with blood when you stand up, and so people can get this inside their pelvis, and it can often go unrecognized or some kind of like vague symptoms. They can also have aneurysms, like the chap who had this one in the brain. Nerve compressions, all of the things that were described.
Remarkably painful nerve compression.
Yes.
Extreme
That would be a good idea. Kind of similar to that other one where you do a
there's also
1
another
times, 2
condition
times,
that
3
goes
times,
with
all
this
the way
very
up to
often, which
7.
is called POTS or
But no, it goes.
postural
You do
tachycardia syndrome.
a 1, a 3,
and it's very
like all
often
odds,
associated with it. And
and
so
then
when
you
you
have
stand up,
different
blood
ones
vessels
where
are
it's
supposed to
even.
tighten and push blood back up against gravity. And in POTS that doesn't happen adequately. So blood pools in the lower body, and then your heart rate shoots up. It can shoot up by 30 beats a minute or more within 10 minutes of standing. To try and compensate for the fact that that the blood vessels are not squeezing, as it were.
You lose the vascular tone.
Oh, mother.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
And then as a result of that, a person can feel dizzy, exhausted, foggy. They can feel their heart is pounding, they get palpitations, and they're often told for years that they're just anxious or that they're unfit. And the cruel irony is that POTS creates a physical state that's indistinguishable from anxiety, right? They still get they get a high heart rate. They have a feeling of like an adrenaline rush, the same kinds of sensations, and so the label fits on a superficial level. But if you treat the anxiety without treating the underlying problem, which is the autonomic problem that results from this, it's kind of like treating the smoke and ignoring the fire.
Just not ignore.
It also affects the gut, so people can have their peristalsis that can be loose, so you can actually get things like gastroparesis when the stomach doesn't empty and people get bloated. They can have erratic bowel habits, and something like 60% of people with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome have at least one significant gut symptom. And on a mental level, people, we mentioned before anxiety, there's anxiety, depression, the rates are strikingly high. Some studies report over 80%. And part of that is obvious, it's because of chronic pain being dismissed, years of accumulating diagnoses with no unifying answer. But the biology also goes deeper than that, because basically the brain is fundamentally a prediction machine, okay? It builds a model of what's happening in the body at any moment in time, and it makes predictions and checks them against the incoming signals all the time. So in a healthy body, the predictions usually match, okay? So if I move my arm here, I can feel the pain here and it stops. In EDS, the body signals are not reliable because the joints that should be stable are not. And blood pressure fluctuates unexpectedly, and the internal body sense is noisy and it's inaccurate. And the brain, what the brain does is to try and make its best prediction, but it keeps getting it wrong.
Right, you can just get fatigue, right?
Constantly getting persistent, unresolvable error signals, let's say.
And there's like a proprioception, isn't it?
Yeah. And that kind
I never thought of that.
Yeah. And so the anxiety is basically, it's a natural result of this. It's not a psychological weakness, or a character flaw. It's actually a complete result of the physiology of what's going on. It's just trying to manage an unpredictable body.
Well, anxiety can be a disease in its own right. Generalized anxiety disorders.
Yeah.
It's common. that makes sense. That you've actually got a biological basis for the anxiety. Well, maybe you've always had, but here you've got an obvious biological basis for the anxiety. Can you give me a clue about the metabolic syndrome?
So I did look into this, and it has got something to do with. I'm just trying to remember it myself. You're testing me now. It has got something to do with, first of all, the high blood pressure has got to do with the renovascular system, so abnormal blood vessels in the kidneys can result in this happening.
Yeah, the kidneys are controlling blood pressure on a day-by-day basis, aren't they?
Yeah, and in addition to that, when you've got dilated arteries, you have an unreliable system, and so blood pressure is more likely to become labile, so it's not able to respond in the same way as usual. I'm trying to think about, there was the other thing was actually about metabolic syndrome, which is what you asked about. And I'm trying to remember why. Metabolic syndrome.
Just trying to think of something. Is it affecting the pancreas directly?
I think it probably, if I remember right, yes, I think it is affecting vessels in the pancreas. And,
so it could be related to pancreatic ducts or something like that.
Yeah. And the pancreas is obviously where the beta cells are, we control insulin secretion, etc. So yes, it's probably something like that. I'm not so sure how.
Those ones? Oh, for the game?
I think everything that I read about it didn't really come up with a definitive answer.
It might not be fully known. But repeated episodes of pancreatitis, for example. Because of the disruption to the pancreatic tissue are going to result in loss of the beta cells, the insulin-producing cells, over time. And there was a disorder of the vasculature that kind of makes sense as well. Or indeed disorders of the pancreatic ducts. If you weren't getting proper drainage of the pancreatic enzymes, you could be getting sort of micro-pancreatitis.
You could be, absolutely. But I think there's also very much a supposition that it's to do, like you said, with the vasculature in the pancreas.
They're brewing.
But without definitive pathology, you can make up any explanation you want, of course.
For sure, yeah. I'm not sure how well.
There are interesting hypotheses.
Yeah. So I've actually, I made a video that's more detailed about this, and it will be uploaded on my channel at some point soon as well. So we'll go into more detail to answer those questions.
Yep. No, that's it's really good that gets you thinking. A lot of people.
I thought it very interesting because I think there are so many people who have this. I see it so commonly in my job, and I think that many people don't recognise themselves as having any of these things, and they probably think they're going a bit mad. They're like, I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got chronic pains, and no one can actually see anything very wrong.
They're always complaining about something.
Yeah,
there's always something wrong with them. Indeed. I guess this is kind of, I would call this abductive reasoning, where you take various observations, and they might, you think what is most likely based on these various observations, you make inference to the best explanation.
Yeah.
Is there a definitive diagnosis? Do the histologists do you take a biopsy or something?
They do genetic studies. The genetics come up with it, except for, as I said, in the most common one, which is hypermobile EDS, which there is no, currently that I'm aware of, there's no single genetic signature for it. But it becomes very obvious from the history and from the examination. So I think this is very much more about an awareness problem. I think that also the more that medicine becomes compartmentalized, people tend to, you go to this specialist for this specialist for that, and people don't put two and two together. And you send someone with a disc herniation to the back surgeon, and if they end up having surgery, they think that's the end of it. And then if they come back 2 years later and needs another surgery, it's like, well, that's just bad luck,
or then they see a completely different surgeon.
Or whatever, yes, any number of reasons. And if they go to different GPs because they move address or something, and no one's putting two and two together because it's not the same person who's actually following them up. And I think that one of the things about I would hope in time, now more and more so, is that we as doctors will become more and more aware of how this is actually quite a common condition in its various forms and to varying degrees, and that we need to be that little bit more pedantic about checking for sign for mobility. You also need to listen, by the way, you need to listen to people's hearts, because they can have a murmur, which rarely results in a serious problem, but they can have things like mitral valve prolapse, which can give them symptoms of palpitations and things like this, or some slight breathlessness. So there's a whole bunch of things here that needs to be looked out for.
Makes perfect sense. The heart valves are very high in connective tissues, collagen.
Yeah.
Pretty tough things. I mean, when you consider these things are flapping around in some people for 90 years,
Yeah.
It must be pretty tough. It really is quite astonishing how amazing these biological materials are. Very important point about compartmentalisation. I've worked with doctors who said, well, you know, I mean, for example, a doctor might be an endocrine specialist, and you say, well, what about something else? What about the neurological condition? He says, well, I don't know about that, but you know, the diabetes is well controlled.
Yeah.
I'm off for a cup of tea now. They just look at their own field. I mean, even when I was young, I mean, we used to have physicians. Now we have neurophysicians. Well, we always did, but we're in a district general hospital. We have renal physicians. We have endocrinological physicians. When I was young, we had in the hospital there was about 4 physicians.
General physician. General physician. Yeah.
Same with surgeons. We had 4 general surgeons who could do just about anything. It was quite incredible, and that is a real problem. This compartmentalisation, lack of holism, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's somewhat inevitable, sadly, that the more medicine advances into doing super specialised stuff, it's very hard for anyone to become good at a particular specialty and still maintain general specialisation, if you want to call it that. One of the few examples that you see of a general surgeon who really does do everything, at least until a few years ago, was paediatric surgeons, so children's surgeons, because you're dealing with such small children. Other than those who are dealing with the heart and lungs, they would pretty much deal with all the different types of surgeries involving a child, pretty much. I mean, I'm sure that even now it's becoming super specialised.
Terrifying operation on children.
Yeah.
I've seen it a few times, but interesting collagen. So people don't realise, or people do realise, but vitamin C is essential for collagen formation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can't make it, and there's a disease called scurvy, where the vitamin C is no longer available, and the collagen throughout the body degenerates.
Correct.
So you might get old wounds that have been healed up for 50 years that all of a sudden fall apart, and bleeding from the gums. And
if my history of medicine is correct, I think that's why the Brits were called limeys.
Indeed it is, yes.
Because they took limes on board the ships when they realised that's what would cure them or prevent the development of scurvy. Vitamin C is actually useful when people have injuries. It's always worth taking extra vitamin C until the injury heals, because it actually improves the healing process.
I agree. Well, why would you want to be a little bit short of vitamin C and delay all the healing process?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, no, just until it gets.
I mean, I always tell people with any injury, take a gram a day without hesitation. As long as there's no contraindication to that. But we perhaps tend to underdose vitamin C with current thinking, because the guidelines, you might read the guidelines that say the recommended daily minimums are 50 milligrams a day, but these minimums are actually calculated as enough to abate the symptoms of scurvy.
Absolutely.
Whereas we actually want to optimise our physiology, not just prevent deficiency disease.
Right.
Only too well aware. Another interesting thing about collagen is if you take a mouse liver, for example, and you mush it up, you'll find there's not much collagen in it as a percentage of overall hepatic tissue. If you take a larger animal like us, there'll be much more collagen in it, because more mass has to be held in place.
Held together.
You take elephants. I don't know about whales because they're supported by the water. But the larger the animal, the greater the percentage of collagen.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So the design of every tissue in every animal is fine-tuned to have just the right amount of collagen. It's just another layer of amazing complexity to this bizarre emergent phenomena that we call life. It's absolutely quite incredible. Fantastic, Michael. Actually, really quite interesting putting that all together. And without you taking an overview on that, these patients could have gone on one condition at a time, thinking they were defective in some way. And
right, and I do think that it's important that people get a diagnosis. Number one, so that they sort of know what they're dealing with. They can try and avoid injuries, for example. I often tell people, doing sports or whatever, so just be careful not to overdo it. Don't overstretch. You're more likely to have a dislocation. You're more likely to injure your joints. So you've got to look after yourself a bit better. You may need to do more muscle strengthening exercises in a more careful environment, in a more careful way. And also so they know that they're not going mad, right? And people who are suffering with chronic pain and no obvious cause for it, they haven't got some obvious inflammation or something like that. It can be very frustrating, and everyone's telling you, no, there's nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with you. Okay, there's nothing wrong with you. Okay, well, so what is wrong?
Absolutely, and then very often patients get a tremendous relief when they get a diagnosis.
Just from the knowledge,
Yeah, I mean, we talk about not labelling patients, which is correct, but a lot of people really appreciate it. Oh, is that what it is? It really is. Necessary all round.
It can also have very serious implications, particularly with pregnancy, by the way, where there's a particularly severe form of EDS called vascular EDS, so it's more than what we were just talking about. But it's when, I mentioned about preeclampsia. Anyone who's got vascular EDS, which is more severe, and it really does affect the arteries, when they become pregnant, they really need to be under a highly specialised care and very regular follow-up by specialists in the hospital, because they're at a much higher risk of things going wrong with that pregnancy.
That's literally the difference between life and death for the mother and the unborn child. Yeah. Great stuff, Michael. Thank you. I really enjoyed that actually, because I genuinely didn't know what was happening there. So
neither did I.
It's sometimes I feel a bit guilty about being interested in these things, because basically we're studying human pain, suffering and death, which is appalling. We want to eradicate it, but at the same time it is remarkably interesting and intellectually stimulating to try and work out what's going on.
Yeah, but I think you have to have that, otherwise you don't get to the answers that you need to get to in order to help people.
Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that you were thinking about that, I always said to my students, being a good nurse is not something you learn, it's something you are. And, that's the fact that you're thinking in those terms means that, you don't just go to work and be a doctor for 8 hours a day. It's something you are. It starts coming from inside, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's something also that can develop, honestly. I really think it's something that can develop.
Absolutely. Michael, as always, thank you so much, and we look forward to the next time. So thank you so much.
I look forward to it too. Take care.
You too, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cuddle and save on insurance with Liberty Bibbity.
The line is bundle and save on insurance with Liberty Mutual.
Well, that doesn't make any sense, I oppose.
Well, put the puppies down.
I can't. Only pay for what you need.
Right now, vitamins and supplements are 50% off with your first auto ship order. Help combat itching, tummy troubles, licking, or stress. With our thoughtful select.
It looks like this track's this way though, and no one's walked over there. Spread out perimeter, 60 perimeter. Set up a perimeter on this side too, because we don't know if you bailed on this side. I think what they're doing is they're waiting for the bird to track movement, see the same movement, and then after they're done with that, they'll start our canine tracking. Looks like
took place here. That was from some sort of I think.
If we don't get a track, then we're going to start going to an open area search if need be. If we don't get any good info, this is how we're going to report really down from here. Northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, and we'll just send 14 go to check that area.
A frangible bullet. That's a bullet that disintegrates basically on impact. What we know is, again, it severed the carotid artery. Okay?
Pistachios.
If the ascending aorta out of the heart was still intact, there would have been blood spraying out rhythmically because his heart was still beating. We don't see that. That did not happen. So you have to say, okay, what could explain that? The only explanation I can come up with is when whatever the caliber of this bullet was that went in his neck, when it creates a shock wave, and that wave essentially severed the ascending aorta artery, the one that pumps blood all to his head and neck. Once that's severed, and I mean that severed it in an instant, that's why you see there was a rush of blood coming out. It's like somebody turned on a waterfall. The blood flowed out and down. It didn't pump out. But this was not caused by an explosive. I don't know why they're pushing this story right now. Candace Owens, shame on her. She's and it's just out of ignorance. You know, that, you know, it'd be one thing if the hole was here where the microphone was when you explode. You don't understand, when you get an explosion, it creates a force that microphone should have flown off in the opposite direction. It didn't.
You saw something black, like the diameter of like a broomstick, but you can't like see.
But the whole case is so suspicious.
Oh yes. No, listen, he was murdered. The claim that this Tyler Robinson shot and killed him, you know, that's nonsense. Not with that 30-06 rifle. Absolutely not. I mean, there's so many holes in this, but you know, we're now seeing other examples in which the FBI has been, you know, number one, the FBI got into the middle of this right away. Why? There's no FBI had no jurisdiction there at all. You know, so that's you got to say, well, because he wasn't a federal official. He's a private citizen. So there's no justification for the FBI being there and doing that. So you guys say, why did they get involved? But they apparently had actually 2 FBI agents at the hospital where his body was taken. They got, this was, you know, just because a crime is, it's a crime that's committed in that state by a state resident, ostensibly. That's their story. The FBI's got no jurisdiction over that. The state could have later asked the FBI, hey, can you come in and help us with the forensic analysis of this evidence? What we're told, here's the interesting part. ATF claims, oh, they can't, this is out of the report, they couldn't verify that the bullet, the fragment, listen to that, the fragment of the bullet that was recovered from Charlie Kirk's body did not match the rifle that was alleged to have been used. Well, okay, you got a fragment of the bullet, that right there tells you it's a frangible round, because that bullet normally, it's a steel metal jacket, would pass through completely, should have passed completely through the body. I mean, there's video after video of people taking shots with that rifle, with that kind of, with the round that was allegedly used. I mean, it penetrates wood that are inches thick. You know, so this whole thing is a lie. It was cooked up.
vehicle was found in the backseat of the police vehicle she was placed in after the crash. Data from the vehicle's computer showed only the driver.
My question is, if you use a microphone, why do you need to use it inside? The other question would be how we can understand the movement of his t-shirt going outside the way that it was somehow amazing to me. Did you see?
The shock.
You don't see that much of movement of your t-shirt, the way that it was so exaggerated. You look at the picture.
Yeah, no, I've watched it. Actually, the shock from the bullet, the shock that took place in the body. That's what popped the t-shirt out. It wasn't the explosion. Again, the wound doesn't match where the goddamn microphone is. Why do people? Come on, folks. The hole was here. We saw the hole. It went like this. Boom. It didn't. If the microphone's here, how does it create a hole there? I don't. That's crazy. And yet people are pushing this nonsense. It's just. I find it completely. It's part. Look, it's part of this whole. I think part of the broader information operation. Distract, keep attention away from looking at it. In my own view, I think Israel was the one behind the murder of Charlie Kirk. That's what I believe.
2 other points. His necklace was, just flying. Before he's getting hit in the neck. The other point is
no. So I mean, I've looked at it frame by frame. That's not true. I mean, the necklace was again the impact of that round hitting. It was a special round. This was not your typical ammunition that you go to the gun store and buy. This was a specially designed round that literally it exploded in his body. It exploded on the inside of his body, which accounts for the immediate severing of the ascending aortic artery, which is why you don't see the arterial blood spurting out. It's a matter of step back and look at what we see. And they keep coming up with this thing, the exploding microphone.
I recently partnered with Hills.
Yeah, so okay, then explain to me, exploding microphone. Let's say that there was a microphone here, and that the explosive was inside under his shirt. All right.
Like, how do I explain it? I'll be back later.
How does it create a hole in the neck over here? Can you explain that? Yeah, I mean, how does it create a hole in the neck over here? Simple question. And then these others that, it was a palm pistol. God, people that say stupid shit like that just piss me off. I've taken experienced shooters out to the range where there's no pressure, and I'm having them shoot at a 2-inch disc from 3 yards. And the number that can't consistently hit that 2-inch disc is remarkable. And we're talking experienced shooters. Something called the Dodd torture test that I use. So you're telling me that somebody who's, say, 12 feet away with a palm pistol that's not aiming it but is just pointing it in the general direction was able to make that shot? Again, bullshit.
Yeah, but at least you agree with Candace that somehow the only player, the only beneficiary of, I don't know if we can call it this way, but she said that she believes that Israel was behind it, and you said that as well.
Yeah. No, I think it's indisputable that Charlie Kirk's break with the Zionist lobby created, basically created some threats against him. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you, Larry.
All right, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Hey.
See you soon.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I put an extra I.
Officer's body cams abruptly cut as 32-year-old Deputy Isaiah Cordero would later be pronounced dead, sparking a massive manhunt for his killer. Investigators cross-referenced Officer Cordero's body cam footage with flock cameras in the area and positively identified the murderer as 44-year-old William McKay, who had ties to an outlaw biker gang based out of Southern California, as well as a violent criminal history. Officers circulated a description of McKay and his vehicle, and less than 2 hours later, an off-duty officer spotted him traveling south on the 15.
Maine's rural hospitals are struggling, but Senator Susan Collins came to the rescue, delivering critical federal funding for upgraded facilities and life-saving diagnostic equipment. Susan Collins does her job, and our hospitals benefited. Call and thank her for delivering for Maine.
What's the most complicated part of making a spritz? Probably whatever you're doing before you decide to make a spritz.
Here we have another country enforcing their border laws objectively more terrifyingly than America, and mainstream media mainly silent about this. And this almost seems like it's backed by the police, because it'd be one thing if he was making a demonstration and not whipping that thing around at anybody and just saying, hey, go back to your country, this is a protest. This almost makes me feel like this is their local law enforcement backing the efforts of this tribal warrior-looking guy. There's a lot of them lined up, holding hands, also with sticks. And I don't know, do you call these guys like conservatives? What would they be? Because remember, back in the day, I knew a lot of very, very Democrat by default types loving the movie Black Panther, saying all the great things about, oh, we should do more like what they do in Wakanda. It's like, do you idiots realize Wakanda is basically make America great again? Like, this is make Wakanda great again. It's like, it's Trumpism, border laws, and nationalism, and isolation political beliefs. That's the same thing, but I don't know. It's a huge effort over there. This is crazy. South Africans with clubs hunt down immigrants. We don't want you in our country. Terrifying times right now. And remember, same continent that was End the Boer, which is the white farmer, and then their politicians coming out and saying, hey, well, no, it's not that we didn't say that. We're just not doing that right currently. Just right in this moment. If you are an immigrant in South Africa, you are not safe right now. Send this video to Joy Reid. Joy Reid would somehow make this about Donald Trump. And the idea that also, when Trump wants to bring in over, what do they call them? I don't know how to pronounce it. I've just seen it spelled, the Afrikaans? Someone tell me how to spell that phonetically. But it's the white South Africans, traditionally farmers, that have to leave the country and seek asylum in America because it's dangerous for them. Like, their elders are being ended. Women are being attacked. Like, they need to seek asylum. I'm saying it right? Okay, thank you. But this is the reason we have asylum claims. And when it's used for not even white Europeans, white Africans, the left loses their mind. Yeah. Giant mob holding sticks and oftentimes wearing tribal garb coming after you. But this is just not just one incident. It's like they're protesting and hunting illegals and migrants. So not even necessarily illegal immigrants, migrants. They told the government to deport every illegal African migrant or they will remove them themselves. Kind of sounds a lot like what's happening over in Northern Ireland, where the Henry Novak story they tried to bury it. It came back. They've been having a lot of these migrant crimes that get covered up over in the UK in general. But then in Northern Ireland, I disavow this, but they started attacking and setting fire to, I forgot what they call it. It's like the it has a different word than we have. It's like the welfare housing, but it's only for migrants or asylum seekers. They started setting fire to that. An unconfirmed story is they started to like round them all up and boat them over to Wales. So they just, in the UK, they moved them over somewhere safer where there wasn't all the insane right-wing conservative locals setting fire to the housing. It was like, okay, wait a minute. So in an effort to quell these riots, you gave the rioters exactly what they've been asking for decades now. They call that insanely racist, but what do you call it when it happens over here in Africa? It's terrifying stuff. Council housing, it was called something else. I disavow violence while holding a bat because it's a plastic bat. It's not fake. I'm not going after anybody. This is actually genuinely going after everybody. Like, I think about me holding the plastic bat just kind of, you know, being ADHD, but then you saw the videos on the Carmelo Anthony trial, and you had some of the Black Panthers were there, and also people waving actual baseball bats outside a courthouse in front of cops at the Austin Metcalf, I don't know, supporters, a family. Like, we've spiraled out of control, and I can guarantee if Austin Metcalf's family showed up with baseball bats outside the courthouse while waiting for the Carmelo Anthony verdict, every single news outlet would be out there saying, why do they got bats? Well, there's violence coming back in America, but when it's coming from the side that you expect violence to come from, they can hold baseball bats outside a courthouse and nobody bats an eye.
The one decision that I'm most proud of is definitely signing on to go back to school, fulfilling a dream I didn't realize I had. You can do this. It doesn't matter what is...
I'm not saying, you know, we expect this from the third world, but you expect this from the third world. I wouldn't be surprised if we started to see very, very similar activity in the Western nations, up to including the UK. Something very similar, because we saw this in smaller numbers, masked men with sticks counteracting the other masked men with sticks, but I mean, we're starting to see full-on race wars around. Stuff that it just zoomed in, looks like one guy, maybe some cops around him, but it's an entire movement. And also they're saying secure your borders or face chaos. Is this like Zimbabwe live? And these are just sticks, possibly sabers, possibly whips, but interesting how some places are allowed to aggressively enforce their borders, just not Americans. Okay, I take it back. I thought maybe this was the police looking after this guy, but just the optics of it just makes you think they were backing him up. No, I think the local law enforcement is actually they're part of the tribalist with spears saying, hunt them down, we'll end them. Terrifying times. They're not touching the cops either. They're just walking around the cops. This is the cops are part of the movement. Everything you see in South Africa is what they have planned for the West. It's been race Marxism, testing ground for globalists for decades now. I'm honestly surprised how much China has been meddling with Africa's politics, where everybody's all upset about Western imperialism, but Eastern imperialism is going to be objectively worse, in my opinion. South Africa says over 900 arrested during nationwide anti-migrant protests. Thousands have fled South Africa, fearing they will be attacked or ended after an anti-immigrant movement set a deadline for them to leave the country. How come there's no racism? Because obviously they're after a certain race in South Africa. How come there's no conservative or alt-right movement? It's just almost like, what is this? NBC has recently discovered how to journalism again. Very, very dry, non-sensationalized reporting of what's happening in the world. Deputy National Police Commissioner told press conference 120 marches that took place, 108 were peaceful, while 12 needed law enforcement to intervene during unrest. A little bit fiery, but mostly peaceful, but maybe a little more objective. Some of those arrested were undocumented migrants detained for violating immigration rules. If we arrested an illegal immigrant violating immigration rules, I'm almost certain NBC News would be like, MAGA conservatives being racist again. Soldiers sent to Johannesburg to support the police. Most prominent groups opposing illegal immigration include March Operation Dudula and Progressive Forces. The president has challenged the protesters' allegation that migrants are to blame for the country's social and economic challenges. Met Monday night with leaders. Some of the groups asked them to conduct peaceful demonstrations. And it's almost like every single country everywhere. This is not a white and a black thing, or white and a brown thing, or yellow and a brown thing. It's almost like whenever you have an established culture of people, established population of people, and you do not live in a utopia where everybody has more than they need, more housing they need, more schools, more public housing, more jails, like everything's safe, and let's start doing donations for the needy. Maybe we have some homeless, maybe we have some poor people, maybe we have social issues we have yet to solve. If all of a sudden you start to introduce a new population of people and immediately place them above the middle class in terms of social services, housing, and just general priority with politicians and your political leadership, there's going to be resentment. I don't even think that South Africa is doing what America does in terms of giving illegal immigrants more welfare benefits, more food stamps, and a priority in getting social housing than the locals. And they're already just going nuts with 2x4s, sticks. The police are joining in on their protests, and they're saying, hey, get them out or we're going to hunt them down and end them. Like, this is significantly more aggressive over there, and they're only seeing like a tenth of what we see in America, or over in the UK, or over in Spain, the rest of Europe. It's almost like it's a ticking time bomb, and you don't want it to happen. I don't want to see social unrest like this in our streets, or even in Europe or Ireland streets. But unless the government acts accordingly, I am fearful that at one point in time we're going to see this in first world nations, and especially in countries with 2A, it's not going to be peaceful, and we should do everything we can to avoid it. Countries and borders are created for a reason. The pendulum is swinging. Sad to say, humans are tribal by nature. It's like built into our DNA. Over in Ireland, like we were talking about, they're starting to set fires to mosques. And it's not like I'm saying, hey, well, you know what? Churches, Shinto shrines in Japan, it's happening everywhere in the world, so it was bound to happen over there. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just saying things are escalating, and unless the government step in to address these issues, it's only going to get worse.
This wrong. We don't want in Ireland.
Yeah.
Do you understand? We do not want in this country. Go back to your country. Go back to your country. I beg that.
And here's the thing, I'm just going to go ahead and say that this guy's got to go to jail. Maybe there's something at a level where I say, hey, migration without assimilation does have its issues. But not into the sense where you just randomly burn somebody's property down, where it's going to spread to this newsstand. It's going to spread to what was next to it over here is a coffee shop. Like, I don't want to be inside the coffee shop working on my podcast, go to the bathroom briefly, and all of a sudden I get caught in a blaze, get stuck, and then I die because some insane person said, hey, time to make a political point and burn down the neighboring building. There's still innocence involved. Not this way. I'm not for it. Yeah, the guy's an idiot, exactly. And here's the thing is, if the left ever needed a face for the alt-right, I wouldn't even be surprised. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's mentally unwell and set the fire. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a plant. He is a guy the left went crisisactorhotline.com and said, hey, would you mind putting on this wig and this prosthetic nose and setting a fire and making a very, very convenient, almost Jussie-esque lines about this is MAGA country and get off my land type of scenario. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, it's definitely going to escalate.
Go back to your country.
Scary stuff. And nobody's getting on a side. You could be against Lowe's or report. You can be against the fact that the country still has homeless people and the country has poverty. We don't necessarily have enough money to start giving pocket money and food and feeding millions of immigrants a year. You can agree with that, but you lose them with this. But it's sad to say, like I said, they're burning mosques, they're burning churches and they're burning Shinto shrines, and now you're seeing over in Japan, this girl over here saying they're already creating no-go zones in Japan, and it's, at what point in time do you start drawing the line saying, okay, cool, we want to be accepting, Japan has some population issues, but you can't turn a blind eye to this. I guess she's, so she said, I beg you, finally a Pakistani settlement. People cannot enter that has been created. The locations in this city, Hokkaido, minutes from Sapporo. There are 3 people, now it's increased to approximately 244 people. Inside the settlement, there's a mosque, used car factories, and they're all illegal buildings. They're not adhering to Japanese law. According to Ibitsu City, 72 illegal buildings have been confirmed. It's turned into a lawless zone, so they come in not to assimilate, but to take over. And that's the thing, is what we talked about many, many times before. To a lot of people, it's like political left and right, Democrats, Republicans, strict border laws, no asylum laws, like left and right or whatever. It's like, we're playing games, but to a certain population of people, it is a holy war. It is about taking over, not assimilating, and shoving your religion down everybody else's throat because this is what your God told you. And that's terrifying because you cannot, vote your way into saying, this is okay, but that's not. It is a holy war for them. They have to do this. These are all the testimonies when the Japanese people try to enter. They get surrounded by them and threatened with Japanese people, get out. And the inverse of it is, there's places in Japan, it's Japanese only. But sad to say, it is Japan, so you kind of understand it. Like, I had a buddy way back in the day. Black guy, cool, very into like Japanese culture. I don't know if you call him a weeb, but black guy, really into Japanese stuff, goes to Japan, and he told me about how he got on a subway and was trying to find the red zone as a black guy. And apparently, as soon as he got off the subway, the Japanese police just started saying, no, 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 and just forcibly shoving him back in the subway. Get out of here. And it's like, he was surprised because he was like, oh, I thought this was like, a free country. He's like, no, there's certain zones we cannot go to. And I was like, is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know, but I cannot say anything about Japan. You gotta adhere to what we do in America because we do it so much better. I can understand that, but that's also understanding of assimilation. Other cultures aren't necessarily like that. They say, you have no Nigerian zones? Well, we're going to have no Japanese zones. In Japan, you have to fix this immediately. It's essentially become a Pakistani autonomous zone, but the administration and police say they cannot intervene. Here's the problem is, to my understanding,
when you look in the other
isn't that
areas,
why they had
the other
Japanese
areas
organized
of
crime, like why
concerns
the Yakuza
with
was
the same type of groups here with the
like maybe a
organized
mafia,
crime?
with a mob controlling.
Okay, so before they were
Vegas,
doing this,
it was
go
like
back a little bit. What were they doing?
earthquake
Throwing
hits,
gay
they
people
would
off
do
the
things to the
roof,
culture.
shaving their beards.
This
It's just
would
a
be something
different
that they would
place,
want to
different
address
organized
for their
crime,
country, but to my understanding
different
is they're
beliefs,
falling out of
fears.
favor.
Yeah,
a lot
so
of the
it's-
younger gang members, the younger like youths,
Right, and
they
it's
don't
these
want to
kind of
abide by laws,
understandings, just
don't
like
want to
that,
abide by the Yakuza's
that we
laws, so
hope
then they
to
all of a sudden
hear
make
and
their
see
own
more of throughout
separate
mainstream,
gangs. It's the whole thing.
because it's sad how
Yeah,
that
Yakuza
lack
kind of
of
faded out
awareness
thanks
really
to anti-Yakuza laws in the
perpetuates
90s, which is understandable. Guys, if you spam the chat, I'm gonna
Yeah, I
block you.
don't
Like,
know.
you ask one thing one time, that's fine. Repeat it, I'll ban you. I don't care. Yo, so in Hokkaido, a settlement of Pakistanis from the world's 4th most terrorism-prone country has suddenly appeared. No, it didn't suddenly appear. Your left-leaning politicians made them appear because of reasons. Okay, so they're having issues over there. You'd think that there'd be some way to stop this, but sad to say, it's getting worse and worse and worse. You have this female protester. Obviously, we can't understand what you're saying, but translation from Agent Dawn saying, I used to work at an elementary school. Foreign kids who don't even understand Japanese cause total chaos in the classroom, and they hire interpreters for foreigners using tax money. Don't you think we should first ensure Japanese kids get proper education? And I remember this as a kid. And in my school, this was like, very long time ago, but I just remember there were a lot of kids in my class that were just Spanish-only speaking students, where we'd have maybe 4 of the girls only spoke Spanish, and then we'd have maybe 6 of the girls, not 4, like 2 of the girls that spoke Spanish and English, and whenever there was a lesson being taught, the 2 girls would have to translate for the 4 other girls, and it really handicapped the whole class because it just, the class was operating at the speed of the slowest student. And it's like, we'd probably be on chapter 11 by now, but because of them and their lack of comprehension, we're at like chapter 4. Me being me, not the most American-looking kid. You know, this is like late 90s. No, not the most American-looking kid out there. And even my own mother was like, I wish they wouldn't let them in class. They can't pass an English proficiency test. Why am my tax dollars going to educating them, one, and two, handicapping your education and making you essentially in a remedial class. If you're in public school and it just happens to be in a district that has a lot of non-English speaking children and they're in your class, you have now been given sentenced essentially to a remedial class. And it's sad to say, it's like, she's not being racist. She's just giving facts. If we lived in a utopia and Pixar movie where everybody can get education and housing and food, and we can all be, holding hands and skipping across the fields and picking dandelions, and all of a sudden you say, but don't include those kids. Yeah, you would be a racist. You'd be a bad person. But as long as we live in reality, it's not racist to say, you know what? Maybe we should prioritize Japanese kids in Japan. Maybe we should prioritize English-speaking people in English-speaking America. Somehow along the lines, the left started demanding, we don't care about sacrificing the education of our kids in public schools, as long as we can't be sometimes or somehow categorized as racist. Lower the bar and make it standard. I had no idea that they've changed with, like, when I was a kid,
be equipped with
90
proper
was an A, 80 is a B,
resources.
70s a C,
You have more
60s a
physical
D,
therapists, health
50s
educators
F.
in the schools.
Apparently now
right, I mean,
50s
they
a C.
want to make it all
And
these
I remember going
segregated,
to my niece's high
separate.
school graduation very
You got
recently,
Western
and
medicine,
hearing the
naturopath,
valedictorians and the
holistic
salutatorian,
care.
or whatever you call them. Their speeches were all crammed with,
What
I
kind of
didn't try
therapy, all
hard,
these
I don't
different
care
kinds
about
of
school, I was
therapies,
mostly focused on
occupational
partying. I'm like, how are
therapy
you the
species.
cream of the crop
Shouldn't all this be
if
like
you
in the
didn't care
public
about studying?
schools?
And then also, half
Because
the
when you
kids
look at what Western
graduating
medicine
with
does
honors.
and
Oh, they had
how
all
it
these AP
completely
courses. And I'm like,
dumbs
if
them
50%
up. This
of your
has been talked
students
about for
are graduating
decades.
with honors,
Over
honors doesn't
medicated,
mean a damn thing anymore.
overloaded
Yeah,
with
we are
bullshit,
definitely lowering the
information,
curve, making
drama.
ourselves stupid,
It's
so we can keep
fucking
on
soap
rubber stamping
opera.
that everything's
We've
working,
been saying
more
this
tax dollars for
many
everything.
years.
Meanwhile, places like China are going to eat
Right,
us.
so I mean, we have the capabilities to do it. Why won't they? Who's making the decisions and why? What do they fear? Is it just not fair? We're not just gonna give handouts. Yeah, it seems like it turns into a lot of that nasty fucking entitled people who have never fucking worked a day in their lives.
And sad to say,
But
me being
because I
someone
guess
that
they're on
hires
some
kids
kind of
like in-
payroll and
who's
they
hired
call
kids
it
that are like in
work.
college
Yeah,
years.
okay.
Their
Seems
comprehension
like
of
more
most
of a
things
hindrance.
is,
So I don't know. I mean,
not
if
the
you
same.
feel good
Not the
about
same at all.
your
It's sad to
work
say, you gotta go back to America
and
too. You
just
have
filling a
a
spot
liberal congresswoman
in these
telling the parents
streams
of those
of rich people
murdered by
that
illegals. She has better things
it's like a
to do.
fake world.
This is where we are in the state of America.
Unfortunately,
I know, it's
this
very
hearing
real. It's like
is,
really real.
it's the fourth time in this committee that we've had a hearing on sanctuary cities.
Yep. Maybe we
I'm
wouldn't have to have
sorry,
a
it is
fourth
when you look at
instance
it.
of us talking about it.
They get raised to not talk about certain subjects. Many of them see it, and then when they do see it, they kind of like don't really acknowledge it
We need
because
to know to say we have a problem. Maybe
right,
we
the
don't
thing
wanna get
feels
to a
like
low
it was being
oral gang
stupid,
report levels of
or it puts blame onto
as
the others.
assaults
Why'd you
for us
lie
to
to
finally
us? Why
listen.
didn't
No.
you teach us
We've
this
already
in
addressed
school?
your issues of your kids
Right, I
getting
mean, just
killed.
the
I'm ready to
non-stop
move
rhetoric.
on.
You could
That's
go
what
on
I
all
feel
day
about
with
it.
the examples there,
The fourth
and we're
time.
always back to square
And
one.
there's many other things.
And then when it gets okay, yeah, why don't we do that? Yeah, why don't we do that?
And lots of things they could be doing
Right,
better than this,
look,
like
it's
divvying
always
up
the
the money
same.
of American taxpayers to reallocate those funds.
Yeah, Democrat
to
or
people that
Republican,
don't
left or
necessarily have the
right,
legal right
6
to
or
be here,
7.
but if you don't say
What
that they deserve the right
businesses?
to free health care, free housing, some pocket money, more EBT funds than the average American citizen
Right, and
gets,
then when you just
its own
have all,
welfare.
so many different
If you
things
don't
going on,
agree
different
how we should spend
communities,
money
and
on
people
that,
trying to do
maybe you're a
land
dirty
grabs,
MAGA
revenge
conservative,
games.
and maybe this is why the Democrats
many
are
things to
essentially
be aware
losing
of.
to the Democrat Socialist
Yeah,
of
and
America
to not
Party
get rid of or
because
stop anything or say
tried to
anything is good or
cater to these
bad, but
insane
just to
idiots for far too long.
have the
And now
education
they
and
just have
awareness. It
the
prevents
most
a lot
extreme
of
version of
the.
their party, and all the moderates
I
have
don't know
drifted
how
right.
many adults have been blind to that for so long and seem to cater to the sickos and druggies. I know, we gotta get what? The things
Karens
they
are
say they
famous
want to get rid of, the dangerous criminals, the cartel people, the dangerous drugs. The shit they promote is worse. And they're working for the cartels and helping and aiding and abetting them. Play their little vengeance games and get the non-vaxxers and the bullies. I mean, are you starting to get that if you haven't already? Because a lot of people do, all over the world. Right, so hopefully we can help the hostages without setting them off too much, because yeah, they get set off when... Why is that? Why don't they want those things exposed? Yeah, think about it. When you actually think about it, one of the biggest networks, what's been crumbling and being exposed. I know, it's these kind of cases right here, and that's why, you know, there's such a strong motivation and desire to not snap and take their motherfucking heads off like we should. Because we understand these things. We've been doing this for a long time, and if we didn't, we'd probably just snap and kill the motherfuckers like most normal people would. Yeah, they're fucking your kids. Fucking and torturing and abusing your sweet, innocent children. And then when you look at all the other shit they did, what they've been ignoring on top of the stress we deal with from the fucking hags and nasty druggies, get the Nazis, Karens, non-vaxxers, it's been absolutely insane. Yeah, no, people should be beyond ashamed of themselves. It's evil, inhumane, fucking disgusting, what a disgrace. And then the patronistic fucking bullshit and ignorance on top of it. Yeah, really, really nice.
One more thing here I think that's important to note is from this bedroom where the victim was, that window right there would be her only way to escape the residence. That bathroom only has a...
Right now we're reading about this Replenza product. It's a GLP-1 support daily multivitamin with probiotics. We don't take it every day. We kind of just dabble here and there with different stuff and see. Yeah, which ones kind of work good, don't work good. And how can you tell if that's working good? Right? And how do you know all that stuff's in it? It has the probiotics. It's a GLP-1 support. It's called Replenza. Right. See, so it says serving size 2 tablets. I don't take 2 tablets daily. See, this is 60 tablets. I've had this for months. And I still have almost half of it. Okay, no, I have 14 left, so not almost half of it. Well, I was thinking it came with 2 sheets, but it came with 4 sheets, and I have almost 1 sheet left. Yeah. I do. I think it works good. So how can you tell us something like that even works good or doesn't work good? Yeah, I like swapping up different kind of probiotic supplements. And there's natural stuff, of course, right? Anything fermented. I just got some pickled garlic. Another great option. Yeah, there's so many things. Look up natural probiotic and prebiotics. Right, so some get a supplement as well. This I don't get just because of the probiotics in it. I was interested in the GLP-1 support on here. It has also 22 essential nutrients, enzymes, probiotics, and then the B complex, and this has the ashwagandha in it. That's one of the reasons why I like swapping these things up, because it seems like different ones will have different side supplements, digestive blends, things like that. Yeah, so I think that's really great to... I find more of a benefit not using the same one at a full dose every day. I get way more of a benefit if I swap things up. Not too much. You know, I like to stick with the same thing for at least 3 or 4 days. And then maybe take a break and not take any for a couple days. Right, because you're getting the natural stuff too within your diet. And I mean, only you can kind of gauge what you're eating and this. You know, I probably got enough probiotics. Yeah, you know, I ate whatever, yogurt and kimchi or whatever it is.
Where identity switches are obvious
yesterday.
or non-possession type, where a person feels detached.
Fermented foods, right? I know, isn't it interesting when you see those streams? They had the methylene blue. You got Ice-T doing the commercials. Smart guy, huh? Right, because for us to notice that and then call out the salespeople or the slugs from back in the day, right, they'd have to do an ad like that. Right, so if you weren't aware, you might go, right, and think that someone's saying he's associated to the bullshit. Right, no, he's just the poster person, right, Oprah? Yeah, he's not fucking the kids. Oprah's not fucking the kids. No, as far as I know. As far as I know. But I do see the ties and associations over the years to different streams and shows when it comes to different high crimes. And I mean, that happens. That's going to happen. If people want to take onus just because some people might be associated to their show or it was one of their towel boys or... I know, because then questions start to be asked, well, why would you hire someone with a criminal record? Right, when you look into it, a lot of security people, army people, police, retired military, yeah, criminal records. Yeah, okay. Right, so I mean, the way it just gets talked about and questioned maybe in the spotlight can seem off-putting, unattractive, and people just don't want to deal with it. It's embarrassing. You don't want to get given a bad name. It's not fair to you. We deal with this all the time with different top shops and crimes. Right, the people, what's her name? Kathy Lee Gifford. She wrote a book about this, the one that was on that morning show, Regis and Kathy, remember? Okay, so she wrote a book kind of about that stuff, yeah? It might have been a different celebrity. There's been quite a few, actually, who find themselves associated to different products or things, and then someone says, hey, you might not want to be working with those people. No, they're drug trafficking, chop shop, whatever it is, right? Sweatshops. So that, I mean, it gets kind of covered up, right? Because it's not fair to them for someone to report, oh, so-and-so's clothing line, they got sweatshops making their clothes. Well, they didn't know. Right, and then they're going to start questioning their people. What the hell? And then their people say, look, we didn't know. We thought they were on the up and up. We did all the required background checks. They had clean records. All right, it almost becomes a joke where they purposely let the crimes happen because, yeah, they're crossing all their T's and dotting their I's, so they did nothing wrong. You can get mad if you want. Please fire me. I've been waiting to get fired, actually. I got a lot of job offers. Please do me a favor. But yeah, no, I like this one. Okay, so this one too also has a really nice dose of biotin, another good selling point. Yeah, so it's not just about, the probiotic or whatever. Yeah, I've loved finding different kind of fun products like that. There's powder ones. This one does happen to be a capsule. It's not a capsule, it's like a supplement. A supplement. Yeah, because it's not really a pill or a capsule, is it? Oh, these things are good to learn about. Do they teach you about these things at your school? How about you over there? Huh? I know, you almost, when you start to see like the different levels and classes. Never heard of it. Never heard of it? What's a probiotic? Yeah, exactly. I don't listen to this one over here. They're about to give us a whole fucking rundown. We'll probably learn something. Listen. Huh, what's the difference? What's the difference? You don't go to public school, do you? How old are you? 12-year-olds putting these 18-year-olds to shame. How does that happen? You know, they say it's in the parenting. So it's in the parenting. Right, no, when you start to understand these things, it's like, oh, look at you. How many languages do you speak? Wow, cool. You don't go to public school either, do you? No. What do you do? Do you take pills if you get sad or get too hyper? What's that? You feel like if you have energy that you need to exhaust, you just hop on your treadmill? Oh, isn't that cute? How about you over there? You punch a wall and take an extra Prozac? Isn't that cute? 12 years old. What about you? That one's having a stress seizure. Sorry, they can't answer the question. Yeah, so I don't know what it's going to take to get folks to get with the program. You do see that stuff a lot with some of the rich people. Yeah, it's not a money thing, believe me. You see it. What is it? Druggies? Nasty fucking pieces of shit? Yeah, pretty much. Right, so anyways, I really hope that the proper authorities here in Augusta, Maine, do what they're supposed to do to help these children, the hostages, in the hands of these sick fucks. I could care less. I mean, you can try to figure out their personal issues all day long and try to bring people together and apart. And I know, I love how they work hard to, you know, bring them apart, to bring them together. It's kind of like tripping a kid, right? And then running over. Oh, let me help you up. Yeah, I know, we've seen them do it. They're sick fucking people. They're sick fucking people. We've seen it. And it horrifies me to think about what my children have been through in the hands of those sick fucking people while you folks play your games. So hopefully the proper authorities do what they're supposed to do. Any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions, we're right here. Thank you. You're welcome. Have a beautiful day.